Hi everyone, if you're enjoying the show and have appreciated the tips and experience being shared with you, maybe consider leaving a one-off tip to support production, including the hosting, the booking, the marketing, the recording, the editing, and every other aspect of making a show like this. You can do that by visiting podcastingpeople.uk/support or via the link in the show notes. Thanks for listening. Hello, podcasting people, and welcome to Behind the Show, where I chat to you podcasters to find out more about you and what you're using to make your podcasts. Yes, you're in the right place, and no, the regular episodes with the big tips aren't going away. They're brilliant, aren't they? Every day's a school day. I just thought you might like to hear from some podcasting people about their setups. So this is a show within a show and tell podcast, the behind the scenes, where we get to know more about the people who make podcasts, sharing what tools they're using to get a podcast made and published, and the experiences guests have with these tools. This is also the first time I'm publishing a video episode for podcasting people. It happened by accident. I imported the video to make some promotional assets and found myself editing the whole episode. So if you're listening to the audio-only version, the link to the video is in the show notes if you want to see it. And if you're watching the video version, a little video-only humour there, you'll have to go and see it. Either way, I hope you enjoy this episode. And if you do, check the show notes out for ways to say thank you. This time on Behind the Show, I am delighted to be joined by Stephanie Fuccio, a podcast marketing and strategy consultant. Steph shares loads of tips online and experiments with different ways of marketing her shows. I'm always impressed by the way she runs towards things, I mentioned that in the episode, to test them out and form an opinion on how things work. By the way, we had a slight technical hiccup in that I was appearing to Steph quite quiet, so I turned my gain up. Something I don't encourage as it produces results that you will hear. I've fixed the audio to an extent. It's mostly fine, but occasionally peaky. So apologies for that. Let's go behind the show to find out more from Steph. Stephanie Fuccio, podcast marketing and strategy person. Welcome to Behind the Show.
Thank you so much, Gareth. It's lovely to see you again post-podcast show, ages and ages ago.
Yeah, it was ages ago, wasn't it? This is a great excuse just to have a nice catch-up.
That's what 99% of my episodes are.
Yeah. But also a good excuse to go through, what you're using in your software and hardware. I think it's just endlessly interesting, isn't it, to find out and to get little tips and maybe little recommendations about what other people are using. So, so hopefully listeners will get that out of this. So you contacted me yesterday, Steph, to say that your beloved microphone had broken. So you're using something else today. Oh, it's there. We will get into that when we get into your podcaster toolkit. So your website, coffeelikemedia.com, says, and I quote, "I'm obsessed with helping people sound more like themselves," which I like, "in their podcast videos, newsletters, and other online spaces." For the benefit of the listeners then, tell us how you do that.
And the reason why that's slightly vague is because it keeps changing. As the industry changes and as my clients' needs change, it changes. Initially, I was a podcast editor. Well, I was a creator first for 4 years, and then I started doing editing for folks. And I noticed that a lot of the business folks I was working with didn't know how to market themselves, didn't know how to do, sound like themselves in social media. So I would give them tips and tricks and them promotion opportunities and things like that. And that eventually turned into a side of a part of the business, not just a value add kind of thing. And then I realized as I was making my own newsletters and obsessed with Substack that a lot of folks didn't know how to do that. And so I kind of did that overall, I can help you sound like you in these places, podcast focused, but because the video and the Substack aren't meant to be their own businesses. They're meant to support the podcast that usually supports a business or a community. sometimes. So it's complicated, but it's not, because a lot of people freeze, especially business owners. They freeze and think they have to be very professional. And what actually makes people want to get to know them and their services is when they're more personable. And so it's that kind of shove to being themselves and stop being overly professional.
Yeah. And you experiment a lot, don't you? So you
constantly.
You run towards this technology, whether it's Substack or whether it's YouTube, and you're always experiment, which I admire actually, because you are doing that very publicly. You're sharing lots of things online about whether it works or not, and sharing stats and things, which I think more people should do. You know, well, there's the Instagram life that people aspire to, isn't there? But actually, you know, when you get down in the mud, what is happening? You know, how can people improve? And I think what you're doing there is great, because it just shows what's really happening, and a fair test, a true experiment. And I mentioned YouTube there. You've been experimenting with YouTube quite a lot recently. How's that been going? And what would you say to independent podcasters, particularly who might have those time challenges? Is it worth pursuing that avenue for them?
The podcasting logo, right? It depends on if their audience is over there. If they can find enough, they go and search their topic or subject over on YouTube, and they find that there are people over there that are getting views from that topic, then I say yes. And honestly, for the time strapped, because I've experimented with both just having the videos there versus feeding it through the RSS ingestion. And honestly, you can feed it through your podcast host if you're on a good podcast host, and then go in and optimize those static image videos with just the logo and the sound. Optimize those, and then throw on some face photos or some cat photos or videos. It's YouTube. So you don't YouTube Shorts is what I'm experimenting with for 90 days. It's almost up. I have one more week of this experiment. And honestly, YouTube Shorts get an insane amount of views for the simplest things that you do on your phone in 30 to 60 seconds. And you can literally attach it and have the link to your full video there. And so people are watching it, they can click on your full video and go over to it. So I think letting your podcast host send your podcast over in audio form, optimizing that video, which takes maybe 10 minutes of research and things, all the things, and then doing a few YouTube Shorts a week that leads to that. I think that's the best way for a time-strapped podcast.
Much the same way as you might do an Instagram story. You can
only with a much bigger reach.
And
with an algorithm that seems to favor people instead of hitting them. Sorry, I have such a struggle with Instagram.
It's bizarre, isn't it?
Oh my gosh.
The kind of strangled reach of late is it's just weird.
Yeah.
Why they don't want people to do well. Advertisers, perhaps? I don't know.
I don't
cynical.
know.
We are here to talk about what you use to make your stuff. So we're going to talk about hardware, software, and then I'm going to ask you to pick out a star of the show. There's the one thing in your whole production lineup that you can't do without. If that sounds not too terrifying. Oh,
my dead mic.
Your microphone with the lovely pink thingy topper.
Yeah.
What do you call it?
A mic
wind
cover,
jammer.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Shall we get into it? So let's get into the hardware. You are on a Samson Go mic today, which I am going to be treating a little bit in post-production.
Yes.
But normally you would have what? What's your beloved mic?
Samson Q.
Right.
Using for about 7 of the 8 years I've been podcasting.
Wow.
I used on 2 when I did in-person recordings, but when the pandemic hit, I sold one because I didn't know when that was going to start again. And then I just got used to doing it online. So even when I interview people in my own city, I tend to just do it online and then meet them for coffee afterwards or before.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So yeah, you did get into a kind of a rhythm and a production line remotely, don't you? And then if you have to do it in person, it's a whole different setup.
It is.
You have to consider the equipment and everything.
Exactly. It's infinitely more complicated, especially if you record in your living room like I do. It's just, it's just much easier to fix if each person's far away from each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so you got your microphone, which is usually the Samsung. Move to the Samsung. I guess it's an opportunity to look around now, isn't it? For Steph to go shopping for a new mic.
No, I've got one on the way. It's just because of where I am and what's available here. I had to order it online, and so it's taking a few weeks. Apparently.
Are you replacing like for like?
No.
Oh,
I am a fidgety person. Everyone. If you ever watch my videos, you'll notice I'm like doing this kind of thing because I've got like an exercise band around my legs, and I'm usually moving around.
You going Madonna?
What?
You going Madonna?
No, no. No, I actually still am going to have a mic, a dynamic mic.
Yeah.
I wasn't quite ready for this Shure MV7. That's the popular one, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going with their gaming mic, MV.
Ah.
Is it MV6 is the name?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that.
So it's supposed to have some of the stuff that the MV7 has, but not all of it.
Okay.
But the reason for the movement thing is that I love my Samsung Q2, but it if you touch it at all, it comes through. And I wanted to experiment with other dynamic mics that didn't register my fidgetiness. So
they could put that in the feature list.
Yes. Good for fidgety folks.
Okay, so your microphone will go into an audio interface, I'm guessing? No?
I used to do all of that pre-pandemic, and I really I like playing with the audio, and so I just plug it in USB. I'm a very simple production person. I go with very basic stuff. So I just plug it in to my computer. I use StreamYard right now, although I'll be switching at the end of the month. Everything's switching by November. I'm like my entire setup will be very
Well, there's
different.
been a lot of movement in the kind of technology side of the industry, isn't there? People buying things, and we're in that kind of companies just getting acquired.
Yes,
left, right, and center. We're talking on Squadcast, of course, which was acquired by Descript, and they've just announced Rooms, which is basically Squadcast within. So this feels like I don't know. Legacy products almost.
And StreamYard got bought out, and their pricing is just elevated to a degree that is just slightly rude. So, and the way they did it was just really uncomfortable for a lot of us that have been with them for a while. So I'm going to jump ship and try something else. So we'll see what happens with that.
Okay, we'll come on to that. So your microphone is going straight into your computer.
Yes.
What computer are you using? Are you on PC, on your Mac?
PC.
PC.
I have an HP something. Do you want me to look up the
HP something? No,
yeah.
It's fine.
You don't pay attention to these things. I'm like, is it fast enough? Does it make any weird noises? And can I get on the internet quickly? These are the things I care about.
Well, that's it. And I think there's a preoccupation sometimes with people wanting to buy the best equipment when they should be more concentrating on, is the show the right thing? Why are you podcasting? Finding their why, rather than going, I need all this stuff in order to do it.
I mean, if you like that kind of thing, that's fine. But for me, when I changed computers, I think about a year and a half ago, I did need to make sure that it was fast enough for computers. So for videos. So I needed to pay attention to the specs then, but I never remember the specs afterwards because I'm like, I don't really do like mics or something. I can watch Bandrew's mics all day on YouTube. His mic videos. Oh my gosh, his reviews are amazing.
Okay.
And I did that all of last week before I landed on the mic that I bought. But have you ever seen his videos?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God.
Send me a link. I'll put it in the show notes.
I will. I will. They're hilarious. And informative. He literally switches the mics and does all this stuff. And it's just, I could watch those all day long. Everything I know about polar patterns comes from his videos. But other than mics, I'm just not interested in comparing tech. I find something that works, then I just stay with it until it literally falls to the ground.
But it's interesting you're talking about video. I've got a MacBook Pro, which I bought in 2020, I think it was. maybe 20, around then. And at the time, podcasting, the video wasn't really a thing.
Yeah.
And so I bought a certain size memory, certain size hard disk. But now I'm thinking, if I do get into this video side, I'm going to need a bigger hard drive because it takes up so much more than audio, doesn't it? Yeah.
It does. Honestly, I am that person that I'm not as attached to the video side of it. I save all of my audio files religiously, but I honestly use YouTube as the storage space.
Fair dues.
I stopped saving most of my videos externally.
Good shortcut. Yeah. Fantastic. Okay, so we have HP laptop. You've got your trusty Samsung, which is now going to be the gaming mic, which will be interesting to see how that goes. You'll have to let me know. What else? I mean, I noticed you have something similar to me in the arm for your microphone,
but that was
usually.
the reason for the damaged microphone. I used to have a standing one when I did in-person stuff. I might try that again because the desktop ones, I write too much during because I like to write like questions and things so I don't interrupt people as much. So the desktop ones move too much.
Yeah.
So I think I might do a standing one. I mean, at first, the new mic is going to come with its own rinky-dink little stand, and I'll do that for a little while. But
rinky-dink little stand.
The little stands that mics come from that nobody should use. It comes with one of those.
Again, you should just write the feature specs for these products.
I don't think they would like that very much. But you know what I mean? Even that, like the Samsung is a great mic, and it came with this, that horrible tiny thing that people put so that the mic's super far away from where they are, and it's just not good. Yeah, but I think I'm going to go with the standing one again because that feels like the safer route for the things I do on the desk while I'm talking to people.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Okay, should we get into some software?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so you mentioned, let's start with the recording software because you mentioned StreamYard. So tell me what happened there because you've been religiously using StreamYard for a good long while.
6-7 years. It's been a long time. Yeah.
Okay. So what went on and who are you moving to?
I don't know the second one yet.
Oh, interesting.
But they got bought out and the service went downhill pretty fast. The quality, the drops, the inability to use the product, and the inability to contact anyone when something went wrong. And then weeks and weeks later, then they sent an email to folks slowly, so not everybody all at once, of the rate hike. And it is intense rate hike. To be fair, I have been sponsored by them for 2 years, so I feel bad saying this, but I also have a responsibility to people to be honest about the things that we're using. And it's just not the service it was. To be fair, I'm still on there until the end of the month, and I am seeing the new features that they're building in. You can reuse a room over and over with, as different recordings. And it honestly feels like, and I don't know this for sure, but it feels like they're building it up to be a corporate tool because it looks like the things that are in there now are meant for big corporations.
Yeah. I was going to say Zoom is probably still a recording software of choice for a lot of podcasters, which isn't necessarily the right thing. So StreamYard is much like a lot of the recording softwares, the virtual recording softwares on the market, in that it will prioritize the audio over the video. Would you say that? I can't quite remember. I know that Squadcast does. I know that Riverside does that as well.
No, because StreamYard was also a streaming platform. So I tend to think they would either do it equally or prioritize the video. I don't know. I never...
Just thinking of the benefits over something like Zoom.
Well, quality. I mean, the audio is way better than in Zoom. It's not as compressed. And the video, the live streaming features, you can put videos on there and stream it, like pre-recorded videos. You could do like webinars. Like they built it up. I was literally using it for all of my consultations, all my client calls, recordings, interviews, like everything. I would just send people a StreamYard link and I would use it for that. I mean, there was just the functionality and reliability were really good.
Yeah.
And it was super easy to get into and share screens and all kinds of things. So
yeah. And I think the big takeaway is just use something other than Zoom. Really.
Yeah. Or use Zoom till you can see someone and record locally.
Yeah.
Because Zoom just really, really...
You get the dips, don't you? If you talk over each other.
Yeah. And once you lose little bits of the words, you can't get them back. No. I mean, now with AI, maybe we can fill them in, but it just literally takes off parts of words here and there. And it's just so frustrating.
Yeah.
I tell people sometimes, if you've got an iPhone or a really good phone that's made for media stuff, put that under you.
Yeah.
I mean, and with a cloth for pop filter purposes and all that. But I mean, there's instructions with it. But honestly, it's better than Zoom.
Yeah. And there are a few on the market. Squadcast, StreamYard, as you mentioned. Boomcaster, which last guest, Danny Brown, on Behind the Show uses, which I've been a guest of his a couple of times. And it's really nice, actually. Yeah. You can brand the backgrounds and all that kind of thing.
Also, Restream is out there. And
Restream,
gosh, there's a few more. With everything that's been falling apart this year, technically, I just wasn't in the mood for another change, but I don't get to decide this.
Well, you know what? By the time this comes out, anything we recommend is probably going to be bought by someone else anyway.
So incredibly true. Yeah. I'll just be shouting from my balcony, "Can everybody hear me?"
Take this down on a slate or something. So when you've recorded in what was StreamYard, were you using Hindenburg? Yeah. What's that like to edit with?
Although, quite honestly, a lot of stuff I do now, I edit the video first because that's quicker and I can kind of make notes of what's happening when.
Can you do that in StreamYard?
They built in some functionality, but it's a really funky waveform. So I'm doing that in Reaper.
Oh, okay.
And then I'll render the video and the audio because I don't edit as much in video as I do audio for obvious reasons. Jump cuts are crazy. And then I get the video and then I go into the audio and in Hindenburg. And then I do a lot of the massaging there. And in Hindenburg, I do tend to use my two favorite plugins are both Acon Digital, Deverberate and Extract Voice, I think is what it's called. But the Deverberate one is gorgeous.
Excellent.
Yeah. And it's a knob, so it's super easy to use. You listen and you move the knob until it sounds like
that's included in Hindenburg, I'm presuming.
No, these are extra.
Oh, this is
but they work
plugin.
in Hindenburg. Once you purchase them, you can...
Can you send me a link to that? And I'll add that to the show notes.
Yeah.
You always like a recommendation. Oh, yes. So we've gone microphone, we've gone recording software, we've gone editing software. Anything else that you'd like to add to Hindenburg in terms of what you like about it?
I'm still using 1.0. Last year they switched to 2.0, which has kind of video editing where you can edit the audio within a video, but you can actually make cuts on the video. And I have not upgraded yet, again, because of all said technology changing and not just... So I can edit so quickly on 1.0 that I'm like, I'm going to stay here for a while. Until
sometimes it takes a lot more time to actually change what you're used to. And then for it to change again. Yeah.
And I'm also waiting for the growing pains of the newer one because I'm in a few groups and I see people talking. I'm like, I'm going to wait till all that's done.
Yeah.
And then I'll switch over. But I've also been doing more because I do a lot of screen shares and I've been falling madly in love with Loom for especially the ChatGPT stuff that I do. I'll just do a screen share on Loom and I'll put that, do very little editing on it and put that up there. So I'm recording on that for some of my videos when it's just me.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
And that's beautiful.
Excellent. Okay. So we've got so where did we get up to? Editing, audio and video, and then publishing. So we get to that stage. What are you using?
Oh, backtrack a little bit. Depending on the problem, if my Acon digital plugins don't work, I may go to Auphonic to see if that would do something else as well. So depending on the problem, not usually with me because I know my setup by now, but with my guests.
Yes.
There's something special from their end that I can't figure out, then I'll go and do that.
Yeah.
Adobe's AI I was using a little bit, but the last few times I used it, I think was about a month ago, and they didn't deal with reverb at all. And that's usually what my guests have a problem with. So I just stopped because I'm like, I can't.
So I guess you've been publishing to YouTube, but in terms of podcasts, I think you go through Buzzsprout, don't you?
Yeah. Buzzsprout.
Yeah. And I've noticed, and I listened to one of your podcasts the other day, Podcast to Connect. You had one of their new features, which was the texting feature.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love
How's
it.
that been?
Silent. You know what it's like getting audio listeners to like do things on their phone?
Yeah.
I tell you what, for me, it's been silent because the two podcasts that I have on, the three podcasts I have on Buzzsprout, one is super old and I haven't published it for over a year intentionally. It has not pod faded. The project is finished. There's a difference. And the other two are so new that it hasn't quite built up that audience yet. However, I have a client who has a bookkeeping podcast, and I kid you not, that man gets more text messages and emails from his listeners than I've ever known anybody to get. So it is working if you have enough of an audience. You literally get a text message and you also get an email with the text message. And now you can put it on, they just revamped their website capabilities, and you can now put your fan mail, which is what they're calling it, on your website so people can see it. Instead of a review, they can actually see a text message from the person. Yeah. I imagine you probably want to get approval from them before doing that, but
yeah. So Buzzsprout, I used to use Buzzsprout, which is, I mean, it's perfectly great. Yeah. Buzzsprout as a host is one of the better ones, isn't it? But I found, especially producing multiple shows, I moved to Captivate just because you can have as many shows as you like under the one thing. But yeah, in terms of as a host, they're great. Well, what are some of your favorite features on Buzzsprout?
Well, their dynamic ad insertions are easy. I know a lot of hosts have them now, but I just find their interface super easy. Their customer service is very responsive, and their online community is just unbeatable. Yeah. But it's just no nonsense. I've been on way too many different hosting sites as experiments and as just a creator over the years, and I found weird technical glitches that a lot of times they say, we don't see anything. And it just never gets fixed. And I don't have that experience with Buzzsprout. When there's a problem, it may take a little while. Sometimes, depending on how weird the problem is, and it's not even that often, but it just gets fixed. Yeah. I know they do something with the audio. I know that really rubs people the wrong way. But I don't really find the difference to be, like, audible. I don't really notice.
Yeah. I think more to the point, if your host isn't offering dynamic advertising at this stage, you might want to consider moving. Yeah. Because it should be, at the very, even if you don't have sponsors, at the very least, you could be putting your own little value ads,
well, value adds and call to actions instead of putting them instead of baking them into the episodes themselves, you can change them every week, every 2 weeks for all of your episodes. I mean, that's powerful.
Yeah. And pretty standard nowadays, isn't it? It's I think it was 2014 that dynamic advertising
Has
came
it been that long? Oh my gosh.
I think it was one of those marvelous industry podcasts like In and Around Podcasting or Pod News Weekly or something like that. Might have been Pod News Weekly. I think it was Acast who invented the dynamic advertising. Yeah. I might have got that wrong. I'll check afterwards and cut it out if not. If it was,
Let
then,
me know, because
yay.
I'm curious how long it's been
Yeah,
around.
I think it was 2014 Acast.
Yeah, very
Sorted
cool.
it out. Yeah. Right. Star of the show. Out of everything that you've mentioned, do you have something that you could? I think I know the answer to this
You don't.
already, but
You're
you're
going to
not.
be so surprised because I haven't even mentioned it yet.
Oh,
Because I am audio first,
yeah.
but as far as platforms go, I am such a fan of YouTube right now. And I find that short videos are incredibly difficult. They take me forever to make. So I have found OpusClips recently. I know they've been around
Okay.
for a while. I keep hearing about them and I kept putting off, but I tried them again and I am so addicted.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is OpusClips?
Yeah, they're one of those services that takes a long form video and they chop it up into bits. And I've been trying these for ages. I used to have like meetings with founders and like, I'll try it, I'll be your tester and all this stuff, right? And I've never found one that I liked. Because the clips that they got were just like 30 to 60%, 60-second clips, but they weren't good. Like there wasn't value to the thing that was in there that they were clipping. And I kid you not, I don't know how they have trained this AI, but the clips that they get, and they actually show you the percentage of virality. Like this is 80, this is 94%, this is 84%, that kind of thing. It's actually right. A lot of times it's right on how value driven the stuff is in that clip. And the shots aren't always right. So sometimes you have to go in and crop, or sometimes I move the caption around. There's still a little bit of work to do with it. But then I go straight from OpusClips. When I'm done editing the clip, I hit a button and it goes straight to my YouTube. And then I still need to optimize it over there. But it's just like, boom, it's done. I don't have to download, upload, relabel it. None of that stuff. It's so simple. I can do maybe 10 or 15 in the time that it used to take me to do 1.5.
Wow.
Yeah. Like I have 40 waiting in my YouTube right now, like in private, that I need to optimize before I release them to the world. That's how quick I can get these up there.
That's fantastic.
It's a game changer. However, when I just did the OpusClips for a couple of weeks, my views went down a little too much. So I'm mixing in a few of face videos along with those, and the mix of the two, of like the personal face videos with the more polished Opus videos, seems to be doing well.
Right. Superb. Well, Steph Fuccio, it's been absolutely lovely to have you on Behind the Show. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Let me know how your new microphone goes. If you're happy with it.
You'll hear.
Oh, there we go. Excellent. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Behind the Show, which is part of Podcasting People. To find out more, head to podcastingpeople.community. Like the sound of this episode? The Sound Boutique can help with your show too, from fixing problem audio all the way through to producing full shows. Visit thesoundboutique.com today to start a conversation. The link is in the show notes.